Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. As always, a ton of things going on in the world of professional basketball that we're going to dive into. Quick reminder, do give us that 5-star rating over on Apple Podcasts. If you're a podcast person, don't forget to leave us a review. Or if you prefer the video version of this show, make sure you do subscribe and turn on those notifications as well. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Keith, we're inching closer to playoff time. It's almost there. We're starting to see the playoff seedings kind of settle in a little bit. But we're also kind of at that point where it's like it's a couple weeks before Christmas, where you just kind of want to hurry up and get there and get to the playoffs and enjoy what's going to be, I think, a pretty crazy stretch run for the NBA through playoff season.
Yeah, it really is. We're down to it, and it's getting. Some teams are getting pretty tough to watch. I was as I was wrapping up the evening, I was watching that Blazers Thunder game last night, and that's just there's not a lot to take away when basically no one is playing in those games there. But we'll see. You're gonna start seeing more teams start clinching spots here in the next couple days. A handful of teams are gonna probably be eliminated as well in the next couple of days, and then you're gonna start. Well, we're already getting the NBA doesn't do an official designation of clinched a play-in spot or anything like that yet, but we're going to start seeing those get clinched as well as several teams are closing in on them. So we're getting down to it now. Most teams have somewhere between 6 and 7 games left, so we're down the stretch.
Well, maybe that's where we should start, is with that Oklahoma City Thunder and Blazers game, because we do have a little bit of news on that. By the way, most of what we have today, it's injury updates because 'tis the season for injury updates. That's the way it goes. But
on that, let's just touch on that, because I had a couple people ask, why is that a thing? And it's because if you think about it, if you have a week to 2 week long injury, that's basically the season. The puppy is going crazy in the background. He's playing. But yeah, if you've got an injury that's going to take a week to 2 weeks to recover, you're down to it at the end of the season. Season ends on April 10th. This year, for the first time, all 15 teams will play on or 15 games featuring all 30 teams on the final day of the season. But yeah, that's why you're seeing these guys. Like, I've seen some people say, hey, a calf strain or a sprained ankle, that's not an injury that ends a season. Well, it is when there's only a week or two left, especially if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder and you're not trying to win games.
Exactly. And that's where you've got teams that are saying, well, what's the benefit? What's the benefit? Like, because we know that it's a thing where if a guy comes back from injury, let's say it's a strained calf, right? And so they're favoring that leg. Sometimes you can create a higher probability of an injury elsewhere in your body because you're favoring that particular body part, that leg. So you don't want that. You don't want a guy suffering another injury or a setback or something like that heading into the offseason. And if you're a team that's not really trying to win games anyway, there's just no incentive to put that player back out on the floor. You're better off just saying, okay, that's it. You're done. Let's head into the offseason and start getting prepared for that. So that's where a number of teams are at. And I guess we'll kick things off there with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Ankle, done. That's it. His season is over, and he is an extremely talented young player. And the Thunder are saying, look, we don't need to win games right now. Let's just call it a season for you, and we'll do what we can do in the offseason and then come back next year.
Yeah, a couple things on this. So this is the list of guys who are out for the Thunder for the rest of the year. Kind of at one point, maybe even a starting 5 for the Thunder. It's Darius Bazley, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Ty Jerome, and Mike Muscala, and it is not expected that Derek Favors or Kenrich Williams will play the rest of the season, even if they have not been officially ruled out. So, so that kind of gives you a sense. That's why I said that Blazers game was a little tough to watch, because the Blazers, as we talked about yesterday, ruled a handful of guys out, including Yusuf Nurkic, Anthony Simons. They joined Nasir Little, Damian Lillard, Joe Ingles is all out as well. So, and then Eric Bledsoe also ruled out. And Josh Hart, I don't think has been ruled out yet, but unlikely we're going to see him. Now, the other thing for the Thunder is, here's where we're at standings wise. We focus obviously a lot on the standings with the playoffs and play-in. Well, the other end matters too, because we're getting down to locking in our lottery positions. So we're going to do this in terms of losses because that's what really matters here. You've got the Orlando Magic and Houston Rockets tied with 56 losses. You have the Detroit Pistons with 55 losses, and then the Thunder with 53 losses. The next closest team to them is the Indiana Pacers with 51. They're not going to probably lose enough to catch, nor are the Magic, Pistons, or Rockets going to win. So we'll leave the Pacers in that fifth spot for now. Why that's important, let's remember those top three, their odds are flat. So the Thunder, they're not so far behind, but it's starting to get tough. We talk about making up 3-4 games at this point in the year. Well, it's just as tough to make up 3-4 games towards the bottom of the run as well, because you need those teams to win
Right.
Versus losing. And let's face it, the Magic, Pistons, and Rockets, they're not exactly trying. News came out of Houston today. They may shut down Christian Wood, Dennis Schroeder for the season, along with Eric Gordon. So that would, basically say, hey, we're closing this down. We're going to get to another guy who was in this race was shut down. The Magic, they probably don't need to shut anybody down, but they're just, they're starting to really make sure that their kids play the minutes, including 10-day guys and things like that. So that's why this matters, because those top three have the flattened lottery odds for the top four picks. Remember, the top four are decided by the lottery, and then the fourth pick has slightly less, good odds to climb in the lottery. So, but just while we'll run through all of them, but for the first pick alone, it's 14% for Orlando, Houston, and Detroit if they're the top three, and then Oklahoma City 12.5% in the fourth spot right now. And then those top three again completely flat 1 through 4. So that's why you're looking to be in this position to get down to that bottom, and that's why these teams are saying, yeah, let's shut these guys down.
Absolutely, that's it exactly. And I saw last, the Blazers and the Thunder played, and the Thunder actually won, and Blazers fans were excited. Because they got that loss that they wanted, because right now the Blazers are sitting down just half a game ahead of, but really behind the Sacramento Kings in the tank race at the bottom there. So that kind of stuff matters, and that's also a factor here when we see guys being shut down for the rest of the season. Teams are trying to drop games whenever they can here. Speaking of which, Reggie Perry signs with the Blazers, because you do have to have certain number of players in order to play a game, and so they do pick up Reggie Perry, bring him in. This is a point where some teams, you're just bringing in some bodies. Every once in a while, somebody will click, and great, maybe you find something. But for the most part, guys are just trying to round out their rosters.
Yeah, and as we said yesterday, we're getting down to it on 10 days. You can only sign a 10-day when there's at least 10 days left in the season. So only a couple more days for those. Every once in a while, you'll see a guy still get signed for the remainder of the season, and then the team might tack on a non-guaranteed second year, and then they can at least bring him to summer league and camp and those kind of things. And that could be ultimately what happens here with Reggie Perry if he makes it through the remainder of this year, and then they re-sign him. So, but yeah, I mean, they need bodies, because last night, I think Drew Eubanks was the only player taller than 6'6" that played for the
Blazers.
The Blazers. Yeah, they were very small throughout the course of that game.
Do you think, I'm a little bit removed from it compared to previous seasons, but obviously we've had moments where the Lakers have been in the thick of the tank race. So maybe I haven't paid quite as much attention to it these last couple of seasons as I did in the past, but it feels like the tank race isn't quite as big of a thing as it used to be. Do you think the NBA going to the play-in structure, as well as flattening out the lottery odds to a degree, do you think that's had a positive effect in terms of making tanking a less real strategy to go to?
Yeah, I do. I think the flattening of the lottery odds started the process, because there's no reason to be egregiously bad. You weren't trying to win 10 games, and those kind of things just to make sure you were all the way at the bottom. You are trying to, basically be you're just getting into that bottom three to be equal. So you don't need to be, completely egregiously bad with that. And then the play-in, you're absolutely right. What that has stopped is teams at the trade deadline and saying, geez, we're 7 games out of the 8th seed. we're out. Now they look at it and say, oh, we're only 4 games out of the
Mm-hmm.
10 seed. Maybe we can get in the mix here and those kind of things. So I think you have had some teams, because for some teams, just that shot at getting through the play-in and into the postseason is very worth it for them. So definitely positive from that sense. Hey, while we're on, do a ton of these, but we'll do them when it's top guy. Keegan Murray of Iowa, according to Jonathan Givony of Draft Express and ESPN, is declaring for the NBA draft. So he is a projected top 5 pick in the draft. He's pretty good. He's a forward with pretty good size, can shoot the ball, do a little bit of putting it on the floor and those kind of things. Can play some defense. So he's probably going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. So we're starting to see the better players start to put their name in here. We'll see a handful more over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, the Final Four Saturday and then the National Championship Monday. So anybody still playing, we probably won't hear on them until this time next week or so.
Right. And we will start shifting towards a bit more draft coverage as we get closer to the actual NBA draft. But good note there. Some positive injury news. Paul George upgraded to questionable. I mean, this is
not only that, while we were reporting, there was a report. Sounds like he's going to play, barring any kind of pregame setback.
There we go.
That's pretty huge.
That could definitely add some intrigue into not just the play-in, but assuming the Clippers get through the play-in now with Paul George. I'm not saying they would win, but like Clippers Grizzlies round 1 becomes more even Clippers Suns becomes more interesting in round 1 if that's what we wind up seeing. So that could be big for them. Now, no, we haven't seen anything on Kawhi Leonard in terms of him returning or anything like that.
My guess is no.
I would think so as well. But I'll say it's more likely that he comes back if Paul George is back than if Paul George was out. I think if Paul George was out, then it's just a flat no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So we'll see what winds up happening there. But but good news for the Clippers and for their playoff prospects here. Again, not saying they're going to advance far or anything like that, but I think it makes them definitely more of a threat come playoff time.
Yeah, despite losing 5 in a row, because the Pelicans, Lakers, and the Spurs are starting to play better, but they were far enough behind. But the Pelicans and Lakers have been kind of floating through this back half here. The Clippers are still 4 games up on the Pelicans, so they're a couple games away from locking into what will be the 8th seed, because they're obviously not going to catch the Timberwolves. I don't even know if they still can. I'd have to do that math out.
Right.
But they're not going to catch the Wolves. So they're going to be the 8 spot. So that gives them the 2 shots. They'll go on the road to whether it be Minnesota, or if Minnesota can somehow catch Denver or Utah in front of them. That they'll go on the road in that first one, and then they'll host the second game if they lose. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Paul George, that gives you a fighting chance in these series, because they can definitely do some stuff. We saw them beat the Jazz last year without guys. And just in case anybody's wondering, it's going to be the Suns and the Grizzlies who are waiting on the play-in to play out to get their opponent, because the Suns have already clinched everything there is to clinch. There's nothing left for them to clinch, and the Grizzlies are now 5 games up on the Warriors for second in the West. So they're matter a couple of days here from clinching that.
It's going to be interesting come playoff time to see what happens there. But yeah, right. A bunch of guys are going to be clinching. A bunch of teams will be clinching certain spots, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Imagine if there's a path to getting Clippers Jazz again.
Well,
Utah would be not.
If I was Utah fan, it's so funny, right? Because it was at the beginning of kind of this good run for the Jazz. It was the Warriors, then it was the Rockets, and now it's like the Clippers, and it's like, just get now. I guess on the flip side, you look at it, if we're starting to talk 3 teams that you're having that much struggle with, well, then maybe that's more on you. But the Nuggets also got them too, right? That the bubble year, if I remember correct. I think the Nuggets knocked the Jazz out. Because wasn't that crazy? Conley made a shot, Murray made a shot, and then Conley rimmed out like a half court.
Yep. That's right.
Game 7. Yeah, that was a really fun game there. But yeah, and we'll see. And speaking of Jazz, Nuggets, Mavericks, they're all within a game and a half of each other for the 4, 5, 6. So that's a run there. And the Dallas is only a game and a half behind the Warriors as well. So still a lot to be decided seeding wise in the middle of the West.
Probably be a game behind after tonight. They are playing my Lakers, and I checked the line. The Mavs are a 12-point favorite with both LeBron James and Anthony Davis presumably sidelined for that one. So,
Hey, and for
yeah.
everybody gets psyched, national TV,
Oh
7:30,
my God. We talked about
Lakers
this.
Mavericks.
Ron and I
Yeah,
talked about this on the Lakers Nation podcast last night. We're like every game down the stretch is nationally televised, and no one wants that. Get these
no.
guys off the TV, please. But
My guess is because a lot of people are like, why is it not Bucks Sixers, which is a
yeah,
huge game in the East? My guess is it's because the Mavs to have a 7:30. That's a very early start for them. It's only a 6:30 local start.
mhm,
My guess is that's why, to then push them back into their normal start times are 7:30 local, which is 8:30 Eastern.
sure.
So you'd be pushing the game back a whole hour. And my guess is that's why they're not doing it, because people may have already done their plans and whatever, and that's why they didn't change it. But yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Like nobody wants
No.
this. This was like, remember, like for years when it was like the Lakers couldn't get good and the Knicks couldn't get
Yeah.
good, and like it was just
Lakers,
like,
Knicks, and then both were playing on Christmas Day, and we're like,
yes.
what is
Yeah.
this?
Now I do kind of miss it because that was when you scheduled in the family time and
Mm.
maybe catch a nap on Christmas Day. But yeah, I hear you, but it is what it is.
All right, let's get to where do we want to go next? Well, Jared Harper to the Pelicans on a two-way contract. We
Mhm.
talked about Alvarado got bumped up to a full contract, so that frees up a spot for Jared Harper to get a two-way deal. So he'll get a look there from the Pelicans.
And he had been with them earlier this season's been kind of on and off. He's been playing for my favorite G League team name, the Birmingham Squadron
Mm-hmm.
of the G League. He had been playing with them all year. And then on Jose Alvarado, just to kind of close a little bit of loop, because we've had some subsequent reporting on him, he got 1.5 million for the remainder of this season. Basically, all the Pelicans had left to give of their mid-level exception. They gave it to Alvarado. And that's that's a huge bump, because as an undrafted rookie, he would have been looking at about 100,000 or so down the stretch here, a little over that, probably about 140,000 ish. So, that's huge. That's why when you start to like, man, this dude did a 4-year deal,
Mm-hmm.
he might have been able to get something out of that, and then he'll be fully guaranteed at about 1.5 million next year, and then into non guarantees and a team option on that final season.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, good for him. Good for him to land that kind
Yeah.
of a payday. Cool story.
Mhm.
All right, let's finish up.
Hey, did you see their Pelicans bio?
I didn't.
It was really cute. So, there was the whole thing with Jose Alvarado, can he shoot?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like the whole thing
Right.
that was out there. And it said, yes, he can shoot, and he got paid. That's what they changed their bio to. I thought that was pretty fun.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Good job, Pelicans.
Yep. Yep.
All right, let's finish up with this. Ugh. Evan Mobley, sprained ankle. Come
Yeah.
on.
Oh, we skipped Jeremy Grant too.
Oh, yeah, we don't know. Okay. Jeremy Grant as well.
Jeremy
I knew
Grant
I was
out
missing
for
one.
the year for the Pistons. Added to the list.
That's the
now
strained calf we
yeah.
were talking about earlier. Yeah, Jeremy Grant.
Now an important injury
Yes.
that actually matters for the rest of the season in the standing. Evan Mobley.
Evan Mobley.
Yeah, it looked bad too.
Mhm.
I was watching part of that game last night. They were playing the Orlando Magic, went up to contest the shot, came down, landed on Franz Wagner's foot, rolled his ankle. Nothing dirty or anything. It just happens
Mhm.
like that. And and then he had to be helped off. Was able to stay on the sideline for a little while. Looked like he was kind of moving okay. Per Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN, X-rays were negative. So that's actually pretty huge for Mobley, but the Cavs are down in that 7 spot. They're gonna, I think, hold off the Nets. They've got a 3-game lead, but they would like to get back up into 5 or 6, right? Because you want to be in that spot, and they're now a game behind the Bulls and Raptors, who are tied for the 5-6 spots. So that's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. And right now, as things, and this may change because the Brooklyn Nets right now is sitting in the 8th seed. They would have a play-in matchup with the Brooklyn Nets, which is probably not ideal. Now, again, the Nets are only half a game up on the Hornets, so maybe there could be a shuffle there. I don't think Cleveland's not falling farther than 7. I think they're at their floor right now. They have a 3-game lead over the Nets, but ideally they would like to move up to 6 and then not have to deal with the play-in and that whole situation.
Yeah, they only kind of have a couple more what should be gimmies on their schedule. They do get Orlando again. They do get the Knicks, but then they've still got games with the Bucks and the Sixers. It's weird because in the East right now, we don't really know how much those teams are fighting for the 1 and 2
Right.
seeds. Because they're trying to see like, where's Brooklyn going to be? But then they've got a game against Dallas. Dallas is certainly battling. They do have a game against the Nets, which that could turn into a pretty big game. And then they have a game against the Hawks, which the Hawks they're not going to catch the Cavs, but they're trying to move up. They'd like to catch the Nets or move past the Hornets and host that first playing game of their side of that 9-10 matchup. So we do have a lot still going on there with teams that are fighting. So the Cavs are going to have a bit of a tough challenge here the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's and this has been such a great season for them. You hate to see it kind of fall apart here at the end, but I mean, an injury to Evan Mobley, if he's out a significant amount of time and he starts missing some, I mean, potentially the play-in, that could be an early exit. I mean, he's that good. He could be a difference between an early exit and making it through to the next round.
Yeah, what's unfortunate too is there was some news last week that earlier this week, Jared Allen is still having too much pain in his finger for him to return yet. So they're kind of looking at it and saying, all right, maybe we'll still get him back, but as of right now, that they're not there yet. So that's tough.
Good news coming out of Cleveland. All right, man. I hate all these injury updates because more often than not, they wind up being downwards, especially this part of the year where it's a lot of, okay, now we're not going to see this guy again this season. That guy's out this season. I mean, at least we had the positive Paul George news, but still, it's been rough on the injury front lately, that's for sure.
I was thinking, what we should do maybe later this week when everybody's down to about 5-ish games, maybe Friday show. Maybe we'll really kind of lock in and try to make some predictions or something like that for what we think the final seeds would be. Because that at least gives us something maybe to positive to look forward to. And I don't know, maybe not. Maybe that'll turn sideways. It won't be as fun as I think it might be. But yeah, we're just down to it. It's that time of year, right? But as I put it to a friend who's not really a basketball person the other day, I was like, the good stuff's coming. Like we're almost there. We're almost to the postseason, which is I mean, I love playoff basketball so much because I love the nature of the series, playing the same teams, 4 to 7 times over 2 weeks. Yeah, all those adjustments and really getting into stuff. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yep, can't wait. Should be an exciting postseason here in the NBA. All right, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Again, we really do appreciate all those comments that have been coming in and the reviews over on Apple Podcasts. Of course, the comments over on YouTube as well. Still figuring out what the name's going to be for front office listeners. We'll land on something sooner rather than later, but appreciate all the suggestions there as well. Make sure you are subscribing. Don't forget to turn on notifications. And if you're listening over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, again, give us that rating and review. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.